The next presenter is yours truly. So, um, what you've been hearing so far is the entire rundown of both Social Security at the very beginning and then Medicare and all the different pieces of Medicare. Everything you've been hearing is generic for anyone who lives in the United States who's age 65 and is part of the Medicare Social Security system. What we're now going to talk about is things that are really customized and really focused on people who worked their career and have benefits through Chrysler, FCA, Daimler Chrysler, Stellantis, whatever our current nomenclature is. So we're going to talk about the retirement healthcare account, the retirement healthcare retirement account, so the RHCA, RHCA, the HRA, and then an organization called Via Benefits Accounts. So for some of us who were working for Chrysler during the 70s, 80s, 90s, aughts, there was an option when you were working of putting some money into an account called a RHCA, a retirement healthcare account. Not everyone had that option. It depends upon when you were working for Chrysler. And it also depended upon whether you chose that option or not. Not everyone who had the ability to do it actually put money into it. But if you did put money into the RHCA account, that money was a combination of your contributions as an employee, and there was some matching that came out of Chrysler. That money for all these years has been housed at Merrill Lynch, which is now a number of years ago after the financial crisis merged with Bank of America. So Bank of America, Merrill Lynch. And that money was in the same physical location, the same website as your 401k, which I'm assuming most people had a 401k at some point in their career. Now, you might have rolled that 401k into another investment firm out of Merrill Lynch, but the RHCA does not have that ability. So if you had a RHCA, it is going to be housed at Merrill Lynch Bank of America account, and you have to be able to log into that account to manage that money. The RHCA is was a Chrysler invention, so that no other firm, as far as we know, actually had this option. So no, if you talk to any other people who are retired, they will have no idea what you're talking about when you talk about a RHCA, because it was something that was very, very unique to Chrysler. That money that you've been, babysitting for all these years, there are investment options that you can use through Merrill Lynch to invest in mutual funds and stocks and bonds, et cetera. We're not going to talk about, how you manage those funds, but those monies are there, and hopefully if you had one of these, you're familiar with it because you've been monitoring it as stock market goes up and down and you make different investment choices. But so the money went in when you worked, and then you've been managing it since then. Now is the time that you actually take the money out. And you can take the money out at 2 points, or starting at 2 points, when you leave the company or when you turn age 55, whichever is later. So definitely, if the people on this call are in their 60s and 70s on up, you definitely have access to this. But if you left the company by chance at age 50, you could not access that account until you actually turn age 55. The RHCA account and the money to put claims against it can be used for similar types of things as if and when you ever had a flexible spending account when you were working. So for basically any type of out-of-pocket deductibles, co-pays, co-insurance, but it also includes, in addition to what you might have been used to in the past, medical and drug insurance premiums. So not only your out-of-pocket expenses as you go on through the year, but also any insurance premiums, which would include both your Medicare Part B, any premiums you have for Medicare Part D, Medicare Advantage if you have any premiums, but most of those are zero copay or zero premiums, and also Medigap. So any of those can be put against your RHCA account. You can also put in get reimbursed for long-term care premiums or out-of-pocket expenses for dental, vision, hearing. So for hearing aids, whoops. Okay. There we go. So, so for dental, hearing, vision, anything like that, anything medically related, you can put against your RHCA if you choose. The expenses must be incurred on or after the date of your RHCA eligibility, so you can't go retroactive from prior years, you know. But again, you know, it's anything after age 55 is eligible. As I was saying, the common expenses are premiums, office visits, prescription drugs, most out-of-pocket medications and products, medical supplies. There are very few exceptions, things like cosmetic procedures, things that are discretionary on your side, or some general like toothbrushes, hand lotion, things like that. But in general, most things are reimbursable. And there's an entire list of all the different types of expenses, and because I just gave you a little overview on Medicare, via benefitsaccounts.com, and I'll tell you a little bit about their website in a second. It does get a little complicated in how to actually pull the money out, in that it's a coordination process between via benefits accounts, where you actually file the claim, and I'll show you how to file the claim in a second, and then Merrill Lynch, where the money is sitting. One quirk of this whole thing, and again, this is a decision that was made by Auburn Hills and HR Corporate in Stellantis, is that Merrill Lynch cannot see what your balances are within your Merrill Lynch account.
Now you misspoke, Howard.
I'm sorry.
Via benefits can't see the balances in Merrill Lynch.
Correct. I'm sorry. I'm speaking too quickly here. So Paul is absolutely correct. Via benefits cannot see it. And if you go on the Via Benefits Accounts website, you will not be able to see that Merrill Lynch information. You have to log in separately to Merrill Lynch to see that information. So number one, the two organizations do coordinate, but only in the sense that the dollars have to be available, and I'll talk about that in a second. But the Via Benefits Accounts physically cannot see, either the agents or the website, the techies, cannot see the dollar amounts. So what that means is you, as a owner of both the RHCA account, both in the Via Benefits account and in the dollars and cents with Merrill Lynch, you have to go into the Merrill Lynch account either electronically on the website or on telephone, and you have to move dollars out of your investment accounts into this category called RHCA or Merrill Lynch Institutional Money Market 2, the institutional fund. So that's an action you have to do, is if you're putting a claim in for $400, you have to make sure that your institutional fund in your Merrill Lynch account has at least $400. It can have more. When it's in that institutional account, Paul, you can help me out here because you do this a lot more than I do. Do you get any interest on the institutional fund, or is it just basically like
I've never been able to get a straight answer on that. You would think you'd get something since it's a money market account, but
okay.
I couldn't get anybody from Merrill to tell me what the interest rate was.
So it's a money market account, so you're going to get very small, and especially if interest rates are going to be dropping, you're going to get a very small return, if not possibly zero, like a savings account. So it's your advantage not to have a lot of money in that institutional account, but you'll have to have at least the amount of the claim in there. Merrill Lynch will not, as the next bullet says, Merrill Lynch will not automatically liquidate this. So it is up to you to move that account. Here's what happens if you don't do that. If you don't get that money, and quite frankly, and Paul, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'd even get it into that institutional account before you put the claim in and actually see it in that account, because sometimes it'll take a few days to actually sell a mutual fund and get it moved to the institutional account. But make sure that it is there and you see it on the Merrill Lynch account. Then you file the claim with via benefits accounts for the RHCA reimbursement. Because if you don't, there's a whole like a week or two timing thing between via benefits accounts and Merrill Lynch, as emails and information gets passed back and forth between the organizations that we don't see as customers. But if the message goes over from via benefits accounts to Merrill Lynch saying, please give me the $400, and Merrill Lynch says, well, there's the $400 in this account, your claim will get denied. And you'll get a nasty gram coming from via benefits accounts saying, we could not transact your request. So it is behooved upon you to kind of go very methodically through this, and it can take a week, 2, even possibly 3 weeks, to all this handshaking between you as a client, Merrill Lynch, and via benefits accounts to make all this have happen. So as it says here, reimbursements are processed only weekly. It's not done daily.
To a couple of things. Even though, like Howard pointed out, you don't get much interest on that money market account, I try to keep, like $1,000 above what I think I'm going to need in there in case I miss something. And as Howard says, for instance, I just put a claim in the other day for some dental cleaning, and it was approved by via benefits within 24 hours, but I don't expect the money to show up in my bank account for at least 2 weeks.
Yep. So it's a pretty bureaucratic process between all the coordinations, and also, and Paul's, there's another player, which is your bank. So you got a via benefits accounts will then send electronic funds transfer to your bank. So you got a lot of different organizations involved in this. So it works. It's just kind of slow and methodical. But it's behooving upon you to make sure that you sort of understand the general overview of it. And, especially getting that money, as Paul said, getting it, overcompensate such that you don't get caught. And the worst is the claim is denied, and you resubmit the claim, and you go through the process for another 2 to 3 weeks, and it'll work. So it's not catastrophic, but it's just kind of a pain. So to do that transfer, you go on to either the Merrill Lynch account or Merrill Lynch website, and these websites will be shown on our NCRO website if you don't already have it in your favorites, or you can call them and take them on the phone. I'd recommend doing it electronically just because very often, and I remember a few, and Paul, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of the the people you get on the telephone line from Merrill Lynch, because RHCAs are unique to Chrysler, they might not know what you're talking about. So if you use the website, I don't think you won't have as much of a communication issue. Okay, so that's RHCA, which is, as I said, many people who retire, but not everyone has that. So some of that, you might be saying, I don't know, I don't have any of this RHCA account on my Merrill Lynch. Well, it's possible you didn't contribute back in the day to it. Therefore, your balance would be zero. You wouldn't have it. On the other hand, everyone, well, I shouldn't say everyone because the benefits have been changing over the years, but most people who are on this call have an HRA, a healthcare retirement account. That healthcare retirement account is in the name of the retiree, but your spouse is also eligible for a HRA, a healthcare retirement account, when you turn 60, when either you or your spouse, when either of you turns age 65, and the corporation ceases your corporate insurance, they will give you a new benefit that you didn't have when you were below 65 of a healthcare retirement account. It is about $2,000 for a retiree or surviving spouse, and $1,700, $1,750 for your spouse. Now, that is based on your age and service subsidy, meaning when you retired, if your pension had a percentage, hopefully it was at 100%, but some people who retired early, had a lower percentage than 100%. So your pension was reduced by this percentage. If it's 100%, obviously it wasn't reduced, but if it was 90%, you only got 90% of your pension, but you got it for a longer period of time because you retired early. That 90% is used not only for your pension back when you retired, but also for this HRA. So that the 1975 would be multiplied by 90%. So you get, $200 less approximately for this, or for the 1750, you get, $175 less on your spouse. Whoops. So these numbers, irrespective of that percentage reduction, that is individual by, each person on this call, those numbers, since Chrysler FCA set this program up years ago, basically has not changed. It has not been inflation adjusted. We, NCRO, periodically go back to the powers that be in Auburn Hills and ask them to inflation adjust it, because all the costs have been going up over the years, but for whatever reason, they have refused. So that 1975 has been there for at least a decade, and the 1750 for at least a decade, if not longer. So that's just the way it is. It's we shouldn't look a gift horse in the mouth and say thank you. We'll take the $2,000 and these two numbers, because there's one account. If you have a spouse, are combined. So max you can get what, about almost $4,000, $3,800 in your account every year. So you don't get two separate accounts, one for you and one for spouse. It gets added or combined into one account. But that number year over year over year basically will be the same, unless Stellantis FCA decides to be more generous and inflation adjust. Those amounts end up in your account basically, I think, pretty close to the first of the year in January. So sometime, pardon me. So sometime during that first week of January after New Year's, you will see your account increase, and I'll show you where that account is. And I believe you also get an email, I believe, that tells you that that money has been deposited. I'm not sure whether that's the case or not, but definitely if you go on the website, you should see it. These monies can be used for the same type of costs that I went through a few minutes ago with your RHCA. So it's very, very broad in terms of what can be claimed. Two interesting things related to the HRA. One is you can set up, and I think it's even defaults now, that your Medicare Part B premiums will automatically be claimed. You don't have untouched by human hands, automatically be sent in as a claim to your HRA. So and I think that defaults now for every single new HRA account will be defaulted to having the Medicare premiums automatically claimed against that year's HRA. You can turn that off if you so choose, that automatic option. And I think Paul even has it turned off for his own purposes. But in general, you want that turned on, and here's why. If you do the math, years ago, the Medicare Part B premium was below that $2,000 or so that you got in every year. Over the years now, the Medicare Part premium has been increasing such that it exceeds the amount that's deposited. So therefore, you don't have to put in a claim manually at all, because the Medicare Part premium, which is electronically handled for you, will exceed the amount of money that you get from Stellantis. So this can be, unfortunately, because the amount of money that's coming from Stellantis has not increased, this can be a little bit less of a manual effort on our part, because the money coming, the claims coming in from the Medicare Part premium exceed the money coming in from Stellantis. This automatic option of Medicare Part B premiums only works through via benefits accounts for your health, the HRA. You cannot have that automatic feature feed the claim into your RHCA. It only automatically feeds, if you have it turned on, which most people probably do, into your HRA account. All right. The other thing is that within both the RHCA account money is your money. Always has been. You put it in, you got matching back in the day, and it's your money. The HRA is, quite frankly, a benefit that Stellantis has given you. So all this money rolls over year. So it's different than maybe a flexible spending account where in the day, it was use it or lose it every year. Now, if you don't use the money in calendar year 2024, it'll still be there as of January 1st, 2025, plus the incremental amount that Stellantis is giving you, so that you can accumulate it if you so choose. But what you can do is, so as I was saying, the claims coming in from that Part B is happening every month as your Part B premium is being charged to you by the government. If, though, you put in claims sufficient to exceed the dollar amounts here, you can work this out such that as of January, you have enough past year's claims to offset the 1975 and the 1750, and you can get a big lump sum check in January. It doesn't start off that way when you first get your account, when you're age 65 or when your spouse age turns 65. But if you put in some manual claims, you can set it up, or you can have it such that there's a backlog of past claims sitting there, so that when January comes around and that $4,000 or so deposit is put in, you have $6,000 of past year's claims, and via benefits accounts will say, oh, okay, you got 4,000 coming in, but you had 6,000 past due claims. Here's a check for $4,000 so come January. So you can set that up, and that becomes, and again, once you've done that once and had that set up, and for me, every January I get a check for the total amount of that deposit, like the first or second week of January. So I really don't have to do a lot with this process because of the way it works itself out. If you have any questions about this, you can send an email to us at inscom@ncro. Is it com or org? I forgot. But either way, you can send us an email, and we'll be able to walk you through how you can set that up for yourself. So, how do you get access to this website that I've been talking about via benefits accounts? Well, there are a few ways you can get there. One is going through Benefit Connect, which is our HR department online. It's a few steps. You have to first go to benefits up here. And again, all this will be on our NCRO website, so you'll be able to walk yourself through it online by looking at it. And this presentation will be online. So first you go to benefits. Then under that, there's a drop down, and you go to benefits, My Benefits Dashboard. It'll bring you to this web page, My Benefits Dashboard. And down below here, there's a link for via benefits account, or via benefits accounts, and you would click right here. Notice also that the two accounts, you have an HRA and a RHCA. So, this is the RHCA, this is the HRA, and both are showing 0. So even though I might have money in my Merrill Lynch account here, it's going to show 0. Here, this is the HRA, and that's being funded directly from Stellantis. Merrill Lynch is not involved in that at all. So this is one way you can get to via benefits accounts, or you can do the following. You can go directly to via benefits accounts yourself just by setting up in your favorites via benefitsaccounts.com, or there's a mobile app. I'll show you that in a second. And when you're a new user, you would go to create an account. It'll then bring up this screen, and it's a little confusing because it says the top option is employee ID or enter your social security number. You want to enter your social security number. Do not enter your employee ID. Do not use your CID. Doesn't work. That option is not available to us, even though it's there on the website. So you want to enter your social security number. It'll then go through a whole bunch of security authorization process. You have to put in your birth date and zip code. It'll then go back and forth with emails and making sure that you are actually you and setting up a secure password. You'll then get a code, and you have to go and set up with your cell phone and text. And most of us have gone through this type of process over the years. So once you've got your account set up, you'll want to make sure that you have the You want to make sure that you have the direct deposit enabled. Oh, and then direct deposit. So you have to link up your VIA benefits account to your bank account. So you want to put in your direct deposit information of your account number and routing number so that all the money from VIA benefits accounts can go to your bank account. There used to be paper checks available. That option went away a few years ago. So you have to use direct deposit as an option. Or you can there's an app for that. So you can download a mobile app and have access to the same information through VIA benefits. You do not necessarily have to go through the website to handle claims. I'm not going to go through the claims process. It's more involved of actually submitting a claim. There's a whole PDF on our website to go through that. But you can, if you're not as computer literate, you can use a paper form that's available on the website. And I'm sure if you call VIA benefits, they would mail this to you. So there is a manual process for all of this. So you do not have to go through the website for almost all this. I think you do have to do a direct deposit account. But other than that, you can do things manually. As I said, everything is on our website. We have under reimbursements, under the ncro.org website. I had forgotten that it was .org, not .com. There's a tab for reimbursements, and we have one for retirement healthcare accounts. We also have one also for health savings accounts. If you have a HSA, which is a whole nother health saving option that the federal government provides you. But there's a whole, so we have a thing for HRA and RHCA, and there's lots of information. And this is where all of our presentations and YouTubes of this webinar will be shown. In addition, there's next to reimbursements, there's health insurance, where we have Medicare and even information for pre-Medicare people, which is age 63 and 64. So all that information is that we're got here. Some of the presentations that Paul and John did will be housed there. And we also have where Paul's initial presentation on Social Security will be housed on this third tab, which is pension and Social Security. So everything that we've shown here will be there in one way, shape, or form, so that you can look at this whenever you want. And also, there's no password needed for any of this. So if you want to have your friends or family look at all this information, more power to them. It's all available for anyone who has internet access. So this is not just for NCRO. Obviously, this presentation I'm giving right now is sort of customized for NCRO members and Chrysler employees, but all the other presentations that Paul and John gave are very generic. And I've even given this to some of my friends and family around the country. If they're moving into Medicare and are confused, they can go and look at this information themselves. Here is contact information. That, I think, is the end of my presentation here on RHCA and HRA and Medicare or VIA benefits accounts. Are there any questions related to this before we go on to the next subject, which are the consultants and how to consolidate all this information we've been dumping on you in the last 3 hours? So, question here, what happens to your HRA amount if you turn 65 mid-year? Is it prorated for that year? Absolutely. When you're about to turn 65, in the age 64 year, either you or your spouse, I would advise you to call Benefit Connect. Because let's say your birth date is in April. In April of, you're going to turn age 65 in April of 2025. Well, here we are in October of 2024. You're going to be signing up for your health insurance through FCA in January, February, March. Your medical insurance is obviously going to be changing, and you're going to be dropping your medical insurance, or they're going to be dropping you off after 3 months, but then your HRA is going to kick in come April. So there's a proration and an adjustment on both your medical insurance going away and your HRA coming in. So I'd advise you to call Benefit Connect now this month or in October and have them walk through what's going to be happening in your situation, and they can help you out to know, to customize, this transition process for you or your spouse. Should I receive 1975 by myself in HRA and 1750 for my spouse if I'm retired over 65 and my spouse is under 65? So if you're over 65, or when you're turn over 65, after obviously that transition proration year, you'll get 1975. And when your wife, or your spouse, I should say, turns 65, then you will get the combination of the 1975 plus the 1750. But again, if your spouse is older, then you'll initially get the 1750, and then eventually you get the 1975 added to it. Given I turned 65 in April, does Stellantis prorate? Answer that question already. Yep, yes they do.